So I'm Heather Davis, and I manage the CARES Housing Voucher Program. I probably know a lot of you. And Forrest manages the Family Supportive Housing Program.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. I saw some FSH faces out there this morning, and those of you who I don't know from CARES, nice to meet you as well.
So Forrest and I both worked at CVOEO's Financial Futures Program. So we both taught classes. Forrest was I just pulled out my. Sorry. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. So Forrest was a financial coach. So it's been a little while since we've done these things, but that's where we're coming from with this topic. So it's not totally out of left field. It is something that we've done work in before.
Yeah, and I think, one thing, mainly what we want to do today is to just kind of a couple of things, right? Give you all some just tips and reminders about how you get the money conversation started, how you get a conversation about savings started with a client, right? Run through some of the resources that are available with Heather. Heather has a lot of good information about that on these slides. And then, we'll do a little bit of scenario work. And I'm going to mention, those of you who know me, I may sound about 4 octaves lower than usual. I have kind of a rugged head cold right now. So if you see me suddenly disappear and mute, that's because I'm blowing my nose, not because I ran away. So it's good for you to know that too, Heather.
Okay.
Yeah.
You haven't abandoned me.
Yeah. All right. So let me know, Heather, when you want me to.
Okay.
Move
Yeah, go ahead.
the slides.
And
Okay.
you can change. Sorry. So Forrest ran through kind of the agenda. So.
Yeah. Sorry, I guess I kind of did.
No, that's fine. So we have some topics to cover, the scenarios, and then some debrief Q&A time at the end. Okay. Okay, so I sent along a link that Jillian Franks, who was at CVOEO's Financial Futures Program with us, she did a series summarizing your money, your goals for housing support workers and caseworkers. And part of that was learning to talk to your clients about money, because it can be a charged topic, it can be a difficult topic, maybe a topic that some people do not want to talk about. So I'm going to take control over the, or actually, you know what, Forrest, if you want to click on that talking to your clients about money.
Okay, that's the link right there.
Yeah, sorry, we had to do a few last minute changes.
Yeah. And is there a specific section of it you want me to play?
Yeah, at 4 minutes and 3 seconds.
4 minutes, 3 seconds. All right.
So I was having computer problems, so we had to transfer control to Forrest. So we're kind of adapting to all of that right now. So there should be a link there.
Were you just hearing audio?
I don't hear anything.
4 minutes, 3 seconds, right?
Yeah, we don't see it though. Maybe
you don't. Okay.
To change the screen.
All right, maybe I have to unshare and reshare. Bear with me, everyone. Get it queued up.
I just wanted to play like about a minute of that. Did everyone get a chance to check out the whole segment?
Yeah, we're curious if folks get a chance to watch some of that.
Yeah. There's a lot of other pieces to that that's really helpful as well.
All right. Getting there. Yeah, and as you watch the video segment, I think maybe we'll pause afterwards, right, Heather, for a few questions or observations that come up about working with clients and money in your work. Okay. All right, you should now be seeing a YouTube video.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, and I'm gonna. Are you hearing audio?
No. Oh no.
No, it's okay.
I'm sorry, you guys. You know, we can skip this part. I apologize. Like I said, we had my computer is not working properly, and so we had to do like a very last second switch with who is controlling. And so we weren't totally prepared for that.
Okay, here we go. You'll hear it now. Okay, here it comes, everybody.
Not all clients are going to want to immediately engage in talking about money. And that doesn't mean that you can use this as a reason to avoid starting money communications. This slide addresses some of the reasons they may resist and ways that you can address their reluctance. This is a topic that I'd love to spend hours on, and one that never fully goes away. The best advice I can give is to keep raising the issue and to keep looking at it from their point of view. If your client is complaining about not being able to do something, offer to look with them at what they can do. Try showing how one small step leads to the next, and eventually to something they want. And if not now, look at how they've done it in the past. If they argue that there isn't enough income, go with that. What amount would be enough? Is there a way that they could possibly build to that amount? How would they spend it if they had it?
All right. I think that's
the participant is in shut.
Okay.
Great. Thank you. So, like we said, not everyone is ready to talk about money. Not everyone is ready to save, which is the focus of this this training. But Jillian there provides some suggestions on how to have that conversation in a productive way by asking probing questions and just being curious and looking below the surface of what they're talking about, what they say in response to your questions. Can you think of does anybody have any other approaches or questions that you would ask if client you're working with is reluctant to start that conversation? Anyone have any thoughts or ideas about that? We'll get into it more, but this is an initial.
This is Rob. One thing I start with talking about their goals around money, which then gives the why or the purpose behind why we would want to talk about money. I feel like it's a warmer bridge to get into that than just starting off with, so let's talk about a budget, because that seems very very big and large and very overwhelming for a lot of my clients.
Yeah, it is. And it's hard for any of us to do a budget, right? Like, so yeah, just easing into it. That's great. Thank you for sharing.
Nice. Yeah, thanks, Rob.
And then it looks like someone has their hand up. Can't quite see who.
That's me, Jennifer from the Family Center. Hi.
Hi, Jennifer.
I tend to, when I'm talking with my clients about like their goals, often they will have goals of like new tires or something, some financial thing that they want to work on. And that's always a really good segue. Like, you want tires? Let's talk about a budget. Let's talk about how much you're spending on cigarettes or, whatever the thing is.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, love that. Yeah, finding the thing that you can use to from the client's perspective to get that conversation going. Great, thanks.
Right, and whatever is relevant to them in that moment.
Yep.
For sure.
Yeah, that's great.
Anybody else have any thoughts?
Yeah, other observations about how you've gotten that conversation going?
Well,
questions this brings up.
Yeah.
This segment.
So I mean, I just want to validate too, like I already mentioned, not everyone is in a place to save, but it's worth starting that conversation, or just, in a gentle way. And there's an image that's on this slide that kind of like runs, a lot of you are familiar with this, I'm sure, but running through a cycle of working with your client and like steps to take through the different phases. Phase 1, orient, stabilize, and build an alliance. Phase 2, plan and build a team, dial up services. Phase 3, implement, plan, team, track, and recognize progress. And then phase 4, track and recognize progress, dial down services, and transition. So that's just kind of a nice, simple image to remind you of that.
And can I add a comment about that one?
Yeah.
And those of you in family supportive housing, you'll recognize that visual Heather's talking about from our program guidance. And and it's up there to remind you all that as we talking with your clients about money, just being aware of where they are at, kind of in that change process is laid out there, right? Because you may be working with a family or a household or a client who just came onto the program and is deep in crisis, right? And probably that's not going to be the time that you pull up a credit report and look at it item by item, right? But it might be the time that, kind of like Jennifer was suggesting, once a few things are stabilized, that you find a small inroad into a conversation about money, right? And then, versus that phase 4 that's noted there, when things are stabilized, you might be even talking with the client about transitioning off of supports. Maybe that's a time to get into more long range or asset building kinds of goals. So that's why we get that up there.
Yeah. And each of these, we'll send along this PowerPoint afterwards, and each of these highlighted links are, bring you to the resource that so like the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau produced Your Money, Your Goals resources. So there's a link to it there. Okay.
Next slide.
Next slide, please.
Working. Slide. Okay. There we go.
Great. Thank you. Yeah. So why save? I mean, that may seem like a redundant question. Like, of course you want to save money, but it's important to be clear about the intentions behind saving and what those savings can provide. So we're in a windfall period. We have all of these resources being funneled to us through housing vouchers and all different programs right now. So it's really a great opportunity to have these conversations because a lot of folks may not have to pay for their housing right now, or a small amount for their housing. So making a plan to reallocate that money to savings, or even also catching up with debt too. That's a big one, but that's not this topic. So as we know, savings will provide peace of mind and build confidence. If you're able to save, then you grow more confidence and will save more. It reduces stress and provides security. If you don't have funds, then it is a very stressful situation. It can cost you less by not paying fees and interest. If you have the money in savings, then you don't have to borrow for it and pay those fees and interest, or fees as far as like overdrafts from your bank account. It can help you make progress towards your goals. And then also saving towards goals that are important to the client is essential, clearly.
Okay. Well, a comment. I love your visual here, Heather. I think it does a nice job of showing the building your way up to savings.
Yeah. Okay. Next slide, please. Okay, so how to save. A lot of you have probably heard of the SMART goals, and it is a really good way to think about creating goals that they're specific. They are for a certain goal, a specific goal, that it's measurable, like it's a certain amount. Like I want to save, $1,000 or $500 to buy tires for my car in the spring. That they're attainable, like, and they're relevant. So attainable in that, like, I'm not saying I want to save $20,000 in the next year, right? Like that's might be really hard for a lot of people with a limited income, especially. That they're relevant, so they're relevant to the client, and then also time bound. So there is that time frame in that goal. And so it can be emergency savings, so just general savings, like if an emergency comes up, individual goals, and also periodic expenses, which this is one that I had never considered until I worked for Financial Futures, to have an account set aside for those expenses that aren't monthly. Like if you have a propane tank and they come and fill it a few times a year, like then and it's not in your regular spending. So to have some money set aside so that that money can be available when those expenses come up. So and also actually building that into your budget too is a great thing to do. So dividing up what that might cost over the course of the year and putting that amount into that periodic expenses savings. A really great strategy. So reducing expenses can be really hard when you're already living on the edge of, being able to pay your bills. I know that that's a really tough one, and that can be done through tracking and really keeping a very close eye on your spending. But increasing income is right now a really great tool to use. And that's actually the focus of the CARES program right now. Now that all of our participants are in housing, or most of them, now the focus is to increase income so that they're sustainable moving forward. So that increasing income doesn't necessarily have to be in cash, but also all those benefits that are out there. Forrest, did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, do you mind? I wanted to just toss a question out there for the group. Yeah, reduce expenses sounds easy, right? But we'll get into budgeting and tracking, I think, a little bit later here. But I'm curious just to hear from you all where you've had successes with reducing expenses with clients, and also where you've had challenges. If 2 or 3 people wanted to talk about that. What does that look like in your conversations so far?
I can make some comments on that. Hi, everyone. In the budgeting process, as things come up as a learning experience, when money's really tight and there's crisis, but also honesty, on the part of the family when they're doing their budget. And, cigarettes come into mind that, you do the math on 1 pack of cigarettes a day per family member.
It's a classic.
$7,500 a year. It's just craziness where when they budget, they say, oh, we only smoke 1 pack, when really it's 2, and that doubles the cost. So one of the successes I had with a family in that realm was to point that out to them, that, the honesty in your budgeting is for you, not me. And I'm not judging, but now that you see the real cost of this, what can be done? And of course, smoking cessation was on the deck, but they, weren't really moving quickly on that. So the family came up with, well, we'll go in town, they have what they call the smoker's den, and they bought bulk tobacco at half the price. So as much as I'm not, on board with people smoking, but it was a realization that they had to do something in order to right the ship as far as, because they weren't making their bills.
Yeah.
So just some thoughts.
Yeah, no, thanks for that, Rick. And yeah, I totally hear you on the right. Obviously, smoking is not good for one's health, and in an ideal world, you'd love that maybe people are reducing that. But they found a way to make that habit, less expensive. And when you were talking about that example, Rick, it brought up something for me too, from my time financial coaching, that I wanted to emphasize. I think I heard in what you're saying. When myself or Jillian or Heather were working with clients, and we were in this phase when we were examining expenses, we were always really clear that I think you kind of said this, Rick. This work. It comes from you, right? It's your goals, it's your benefit. You're tracking expenses to get information, right? To get data, so that you can see where the money is truly going, right? And so we just tried to have a conversation where we help the client as much as possible also withhold judgment about what they were seeing in their spending, right? Because, I think Heather touched on this at the beginning. Yeah, when you're having these conversations, you often veer into territory, that can be potentially upsetting or traumatizing for folks. And so you create a safe space, and as much as you possibly can, and let people explore where their money is going within that, and then make choices about that. So anyway, that was very wordy. But one or two other folks who just wanted to share something about that piece of reducing expenses.
Forrest, you took my thunder.
Oh man, Cindy, don't let me do it. I can't see anybody's faces right now, so I don't even know what's going on. But
it's all good. No, the awareness piece is a big one. I worked with a client, and she was talking about all these fees that she was getting for overdrafting her account, and and she really wasn't caring about it on one hand, because she felt like, well, I need to feed my kid. If my kid needs something, then I'm going to do this. So we sat down and we did a budget. And in the conversation prior to black and white, it was, I'm only doing what I need to do. Well, they were spending hundreds.
We got somebody needs to mute out there.
Speaking is how she should word state.
Right. See if I can find.
I think you should have a mute all option somewhere, Heather. And then Cindy, you can re-unmute yourself.
Okay, I see. Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyway, they were spending well over 60% of their money on alcohol. And she was providing it for her boyfriend, who was not providing any income into the household at that time. So that was a big eye opener for her. I don't know for sure. I think she's reduced what she's drinking, and she wasn't drinking to excess. But when you have this much money and you're drinking this much alcohol, you can't see my face. So my holding up my fingers with sizes doesn't
I
do
see
any
your
good.
face. I just don't see anyone else.
But anyway, but yeah, I think that some of the fees the banks have been reduced, and I know that she's cut back, and now the boyfriend is working, so there's more money coming in. But it really is that awareness, the honesty that Rick was talking about, and the non-judgment. Those are huge.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Cindy.
It looks
All
like
right.
Rob has.
Oh, great. Yeah. We'll hear from Rob, then we'll probably roll after that.
Yeah, so I just want to add about the non-judgment piece. I teach a class that's called financial literacy, and one of the things about budgeting that we talk about is understanding that, like, what we might perceive as necessities and non-essentials can be different with other people. Like,
Yep.
yeah, the cigarette conversation always comes up as that, but also too, like, I had a lady once that that cable was the absolute had to have it because that was her only connection with the outside world.
Yep.
She got all of her news from that. She knew about the weather. She knew about everything else. And so, I mean, like for me, who, I was like, I don't need cable. I don't want it. I'll save myself $100 a month. Like that was something we had to work in too. So the non-judgment piece is great. And then really listening to your clients about, what is, because you can tell, like the 70-inch TV from Rent-A-Center is not a necessity. We can argue that all day, but maybe cigarettes is something that we bend on as case managers too, because we recognize that's what they need right now for a stress release or whatever they use it for.
Yeah. No, thanks, Rob. I wanted to comment the cable example. I had that exact same example when I was a financial coach, and I think it's a good one because in my case, I was working with someone who I think they had a physical disability. They couldn't get out of the house and get around well. And, and that was almost verbatim what they said about it, Rob, right? Like, this is my connection to the world. This is a thing I need to keep, right? And so I think it's a really good reminder. Yeah, we're always listening to what clients are bringing, not trying to avoid having judgments ourselves, right? And just seeing what they tell us about what those expenses mean to them. Thank you. And Heather, were you going to add something?
Well, it looks like, Lisa, do you have something?
Oh, okay, sure. We can take another quick one.
I don't want to turn anyone down.
Yeah.
I think you're muted.
Right. Okay. So I think the non-judgmental piece cannot be stressed enough. And whatever you say to encourage people, and to let them know that this is for them or it's their goal, etc., cannot be most likely can't be repeated too much. I think people already come to the conversation. Many people come to it with a lot of shame. Being poor, or not being able to save, or etc. So I had a client who always pays her bills and has goals, and yet she can't seem to stop buying things.
Yeah.
And she just and one time she said, oh, please don't be upset with me. And I got another dresser, and I thought, what in the world did I ever say that would make her think that I was upset?
Yeah.
And I think, she's upset with herself, but it's a hard thing to turn around.
Yeah. And reflecting on those things, I think what you just said, like, what did I ever say? Like, you probably didn't say anything, but to be self-reflective and bring those questions back to ourselves to keep ourselves in check too, I think is great.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Totally agree.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Would you like a new slide?
Yes, please.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, that was great. So where to save? There's a traditional savings account are pretty easily accessible. And, I think that's another topic, like access to banking can be hard for some people. But generally it's pretty easy, but it pays very little interest, but that's okay. You can schedule direct deposits. So from your job, you can divide up direct deposits, or you can schedule automatic transfers so that it's automated. When it's automated, it's much easier to save. There are roundup programs. So for example, I have an account that my check, if I spend like 80 cents on my account, it rounds up to $1 and puts the extra 20 cents into a savings account. And credit unions, they have a lot of programs like that, and they generally pay a higher interest rate. So just consider that as well. There are savings programs. The Vermont Match Savings Program was once called the IDA. but it can be used for home, education, business, and I just looked it up, which is another change. It can be used for a vehicle too. I didn't know that about that development until today, which makes so much sense because in Vermont we need a vehicle to work a lot of the time. Saver Life, it's a program. They receive funding to provide cash rewards and prizes for saving. So you connect your savings account to that program. It used to, I can't remember the name that it used to be now. Forrest, do you remember? It used to
Yeah,
have a
I was
different
trying
name.
to remember that. Yeah.
Now I can't remember.
No,
I did it.
Yeah,
I knew
know.
it before. Anyway, so that's a new name for an older program. And America Saves is more like a accountability partner. They don't actually provide any money, but I think during tax time they have some kind of like benefit, like some, I don't know exactly what it is, but they have some kind of program during tax time, I think, that may provide money for people in like a lottery type situation or something.
Yeah, I think it was a lottery, Heather. Yeah, like
Okay.
you get put into a drawing if you saved a portion
Right.
of your tax return, and then maybe you win.
Yeah.
Yep.
So those are some programs that are geared towards the people that we work with that may be useful. Does anyone know of any other ones that I didn't? Any other, ways to save or places to save or matched programs?
Yeah, what's worked for you? Do you see things that aren't on this list? I'm going to make one quick comment that I like to always put out there. Direct deposit, reach up benefits can be direct deposited. So I know a lot of us are working with folks who receive reach up. So that's a really good thing. If somebody gets, traditional banking established, talk with the reach up case manager. I don't remember what it's called, but there's a form put out by the state that allows you to have your reach up benefit designated to a checking account.
Can you divide it up, do you know, into like checking and saving?
That I don't know. Yeah, that I don't know. I don't remember if it allows you to direct different amounts to different accounts. But I think there's potential benefit there because a lot of people are getting it on EBT cards, right? But if you can get somebody in the door of banking, if they can get their benefit going into a banking account, even if it can't be, even if on that form you can't divide it to different accounts, maybe they establish a savings and they can go in and do it manually. But yep.
Okay. Well, let's move to the next slide, please. And so this next slide is some details around asset limits. And so I'm not going to really go through this too much, but just these I think are the most current asset limits. Three Squares Vermont doesn't have any Medicaid programs for children, and adults under 65 don't have limits, but Medicaid for age blind, disabled, and working disabled do. And those are kind of very complicated. Reach Up has a $9,000 asset limit per family, but it has many exclusions. Fuel assistance doesn't have any asset limits anymore, but SSI has a $2,000 asset limit, which is quite low. So I think that's the only reason I could think of not to save money is if you've reached that limit. Like, I can't think of any other reason why it would be a bad idea to save money, unless anyone else has any reasons that you can think of. So that will, just keep those in mind as you work with people saving.
Yeah, and I was just going to add, particularly, I think that SSI asset limit, because it is so low, and right, and you don't want to encourage somebody to save if that savings is going to jeopardize their income.
Yeah.
However, I'm remembering, Heather,
Yeah.
and I'm going to try and find information about this and pass it along. For folks who have disability income, oh my God, what is it called? It'll come back to me. But there's a program that does allow you to save beyond that asset limit. It's pretty regulated, like it has to be for very specific purposes. But at any rate, I'll connect with you after, Heather. That just I remembered that as we were talking about this slide. So we'll send that information.
Okay, so we'll move on to the next one. So there's a lot, like I mentioned before, there's a lot of programs available right now for people to catch up and to get ahead. So the CARES Housing Voucher Program, we're not enrolling any new people, but a lot of you on here now are very familiar with the program. And just a friendly reminder that we can provide 100% of the rent costs, and everyone qualifies. There's a simple form to fill out, or you can fill it out in the annual review and extension form, and those links are right there. And so that's a great opportunity, to if they were paying, say, $300 was their portion of the rent each month, maybe they could put that money into savings instead of paying the rent with it. We can make up the difference. So then there's rapid resolution funds. Those are available until the end of the year. And those are pretty flexible, but there's definitely some creative uses, but it just has to go towards bringing someone out of homelessness, to exit homelessness. So, people have used them to buy a trailer and winterize it. Like there's like a pull behind trailer, not like a house trailer, but like a pull behind in a truck. So there's a lot of flexibility with those funds. The Vermont Emergency Rental Assistance Program, I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with that, and that can help with rent and utility. Right now, the deadline is the end of the year, but unless that's changed, but it's likely to be extended. SSI and SSDI benefits. A lot of folks that we serve do have disabilities and could possibly benefit from this income. And I want to mention that we're going to have a training coming up that's available to all the FSH and CARES housing support workers. And so SOAR is a program or a process, I guess, for applying for those benefits, where they have much higher success rates in getting the benefits. They have a certain process that they follow. So there's going to be a training coming up. I think it'll be in December, and you'll be hearing more information about that very soon. But like they give an example, typically approval of the initial application who don't have assistance, approval rates are 10 to 15%. And then SOAR applications are 63%. So it's a real difference between, the system that they've developed can really help people get those benefits.
And I wanted to mention, I will also distribute the information about that training to family supportive housing too, so you all get that as well.
Yeah,
I'm pretty interested.
I know. Yeah, it seems really great.
Yeah.
And then, so yeah, if you want to go to the next slide. Oh, and then I think maybe Elizabeth or someone said, Elizabeth said something about the PASS plan. Workers on SSDI Save for a Business. Right. So maybe that's what you were referring to?
It's not, but yep, that's another good reminder. That's another resource. Great, thank you so much, Elizabeth. Yeah, but it'll come back to me what that other program was. I can't remember. It had an acronym, right? You know how everyone loves acronyms that meant something, and I can't call it to mind. But thank you for that.
Yeah, that's great. And we'll send along a link to that in the follow-up too. That looks great. Yeah. So then the Family Self-Sufficiency Program is a wonderful opportunity, and Forrest will talk about that a little bit more in a few slides. Fuel assistance, a lot of these are just now the standard assistance that you can find out there, but just a good reminder: seasonal fuel assistance, crisis fuel assistance, energy assistance, broadband assistance is, I think, I don't know if that's a temporary program or with COVID, or if that's going to be, I think it's a newer one. 3 Squares Vermont SNAP benefits. There has been some extra funds being given out with COVID. So that's a nice benefit as well, especially if you have children who go to school. Like we're sending extra funds into those cards. The childcare subsidy is amazing, and then tax refunds, on an annual basis. Those are all really good ways to increase income and recover your income, I guess, with the tax refunds. So that's it with that one. If you want to.
And those are all live links in that slide, right? So when we send
Yeah.
these around, okay. So
yeah, you'll be able to link to those. So the Advanced Child Tax Credit is another program that may become permanent. We don't know yet, but right now we have it. Families who do not file taxes will not automatically receive it. So if they aren't receiving it, the deadline is coming up to get the advance credit. And you can apply in either the IRS portal or the getctc.org. But I think that, like, learning a little bit more about this, the IRS portal is probably a better bet. I think the CTC is more simple if people were going to do it on their own. But if you're assisting them, the IRS portal might be a better option, because I think they can also get those economic impact payments if they didn't receive those. And then also the earned income tax credit, they can qualify. So those are, if they're not filing taxes, if they don't make enough money to file taxes or choose not to because of that, if you do it through the IRS portal, that can make you qualify for those other credits. And I think, like I said, the getctc.org is only for the child tax credit. So that money doesn't count as income or impact eligibility for programs. So ask if they receive it, if they have children, and then ask if they've received the economic impact payments. Because if they haven't, and if they don't get the advanced child tax credit, they could get it next year in their taxes, but that's for the advance piece. And also they can get retroactively the economic impact payments. Anything to add to that, Forrest?
No, I don't think so. I just thought, do we want to pause if there are questions or comments on the last few slides? Yeah, any questions, any observations before we move into the next little bit? Okay.
Right.
Would appear not. Okay, so I think this is where I take the baton, right, Heather?
Yes.
So in that previous slide, Heather mentioned a program called Family Self-Sufficiency, which I think some of you are probably familiar with, some of you may not know about, right? So I wanted to give this one a little bit of a screen time, so to speak, in our training today, because it's a really phenomenal program. And we're at this moment in time where VSHA is working to transfer CARES recipients over to Section 8. So I think it's a good moment for you all to be aware of this one. So as you might guess, Family Self-Sufficiency is open to holders of Section 8 vouchers. And what it is it's a program that essentially where the housing authority gives participants a savings match when their income increases. And I'll talk a little bit about the mechanism for that in a minute. So the way it works is, to participate in Family Self-Sufficiency, you need to establish goals related to employment, right? So you need to have some kind of goal to increase employment. so the program typically works best for people who have lower incomes coming in, maybe no income at all, right, or very little. They think, for example, someone in reach-up benefits again, right? Like, just getting far below the poverty level for income, right? So, so the folks who are at the lowest end of the income bracket will benefit the most from this program. And so the way it works is once they enroll, at the point in time that they enroll in family self-sufficiency, there's Section 8. I'm going to skip ahead to this slide. This makes it a lot easier. Here's my example, right? So let's say somebody enrolls in family self-sufficiency, and their rental portion at the time they enroll is $200 a month. 1 year later, their income has gone up because of a job, and now their rental portion is $350. So what happens under this program is that every month that the participant pays that higher rental portion because of gained employment, the housing authority matches the difference between their original rental portion and their current rental portion in an escrow account. So you see the math there, right? Their rent at enrollment was $200, now it's $350. So every month in this example, VSHA would put $150 away in an account for this participant. So what that means is you can get a lot of money, right? In this example here, if somebody were in the program doing this for 3 years, that would be $5,400. So I'm going to jump back to my other slide. So it's, I think it can't be stressed enough how much of an asset people can potentially build with family self-sufficiency. People have saved thousands of dollars through this program, as we just saw in the example. And, I feel like I'm Ron Popeil or whatever, right? But seriously, when people graduate from the program, they can use the money however they want. This is such I've never even heard of this existing before, aside from this program. And I don't know how it happened, but that money is there in that account. When they graduate successfully, it's their money. So there are no requirements about what they spend it on. Somebody could go if they wanted to, and they could buy, a container truck full of hula hoops. Like, it doesn't matter. Not that they would, but so at any rate, I think that's really phenomenal because I think it just gets at all that stuff we're talking about earlier, right? Where we want participants, when they're saving, when we're talking to them about money, to be driving the conversation, to be able to get money to do the things they want to do, not what other people think they should do, right? And this program allows you to accomplish that when you're done. But in the what you should do bucket, before you graduate, the main condition is that if you were on reach-up benefits when you started this program, you need to have moved off of them to successfully graduate. So that's the one little catch that's in there. But I think it's so part of it was designed as a program to incentivize people off of TANF, right? But I think it's such a great resource. Again, you think of building up thousands of dollars, think of the problems that people run into with the benefits cliff, think of people wanting to buy homes. I worked with someone at CVOEO who was in this program through Burlington Housing Authority, who she saved, I think it was close to 30 grand, and she bought a house, right? And this was someone who came in on reach-up benefits, no employment, right? And then to graduate and be able to buy a home. So like it can be a real game changer for people. And I think it's a program that's underutilized, right? Like, I don't think a lot of people know about it. So there's my little sales pitch. Other details I wanted to mention about it. It's a 5-year program, up to 5 years, right? So again, think about over the course of 5 years, if somebody increases their income and they have that money going into an account every single month, I mean, that's a lot of money. The program has nothing to do with your Section 8 eligibility. So I want to make that clear too. So if someone increases their income over the course of the program, but they remain income eligible for Section 8, they keep their Section 8, right? So this one is not about moving people off of Section 8. It's incentivizing people to move off of Reach Up TANF benefits. So maybe I'll pause there. I don't know if people have questions about this resource.
There are a few questions, and I just
Great.
want to add 2 things before we go to the questions.
Sure, please. Yeah.
So just for those who may not know, Section 8 is also the same as the housing choice voucher.
Yes, thank you. Yep.
Just so that's clear. And then also, with the CARES participant preference for Section 8 and the housing choice voucher, this could be a really great opportunity for the CARES participants.
Yeah, definitely. That's I wanted to get that one in here.
Yeah, for sure. But okay, so Cindy, you had something?
Yep.
I just wanted to say this. I have clients who are engaged in this program, and this dovetails nicely with VSHA's home ownership program because they can transition their voucher, housing choice voucher, towards a mortgage.
Yep.
But they have to start in this program.
Yep.
In order to get it. So.
Yep. No, thank you, Cindy. No, that's another great resource to remember for home ownership. Yep.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Lucy, did you have something you wanted to?
I used to be an FSS coordinator before I started my present job.
Did I screw it up, Lucy?
No, you were perfect.
Okay, good.
Awesome program. I had somebody leave with $20,000.
Yeah.
So when it works really, really well. And you're right, Forrest, to say, get them on when they have no money, when they're really, really low income, because as soon as they get a job, they start saving. It really is a great program.
Yeah.
Great.
Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah. Someone asked, what about Reach Ahead? I personally don't know.
Reach Ahead. Can you elaborate on that question? I guess that's enough that I know what they mean. Can they say more? I don't know who's asking.
Michelle, Warren?
Yeah, I was just wondering, does Reach Ahead count? Like, they need to be off Reach Up at program completion. Do they need to be off Reach Ahead if they were on that?
I assume yes.
Okay. I assume too, but
I think the funding is coming from the same place as it is for Reach Up. Yeah, so I think it's that they have to be off of any TANF benefits, I'm pretty sure. Lucy, do you know the answer?
Yeah, I was just going to say, Lucy might know.
I don't quite recall.
Not to put you on the spot.
Yeah.
But,
Not sure. I don't want to give you the wrong information, but can't remember.
Okay. Yeah, Michelle, I'll follow up and I'll ask that question just to be sure, because it's a good one, right? And just in case folks aren't familiar, Reach Ahead is basically, I may butcher the explanation of this too, I don't know, but it's kind of like a post Reach Up program that sort of helps people. It gives them just a little bit of a Reach Up grant as they transition off of benefits into work. So, yeah, I'll ask about that.
Thank you. And then Sasha's asking, can this apply to individuals too, or only families?
Well, individuals are, sorry. Yeah, and maybe it's just open to families. I have to check the eligibility on that. We'll get back to you. Yeah, I'll double check that.
Okay.
We'll pass that along.
Thank you. And Cameron has a question.
Yeah, this might be a kind of a silly question, but I work with the CARES voucher. So one of my clients just got into a FUV voucher, so I'm fairly unfamiliar with that. Does that qualify as Section 8, and would she be able to do the family self-sufficient program?
I will ask that question too. I'm not sure about that, Cameron. That was a question I meant to ask VSHA when I was preparing for this. Yeah, I'll ask him. We'll get back to you because right, the FUV voucher is essentially just a Section 8 voucher with some extra case management requirements. So, yeah, we'll find out.
Awesome, great, thank you.
Yeah.
Forrest, the FSS is discussed at the briefing for FUPS. So when
Oh,
clients
really?
have their
Oh, they bring
briefing
it up.
of the
Okay.
SHA, FSS is
Oh,
discussed
okay.
at that time.
All right. Then it seems like it should be.
Great.
All right.
And she has
I'll
that
ask them
briefing today.
just to be certain, though.
And Lucy, did you have one more thing to add?
No,
Okay,
you guys
sorry.
covered it well.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Great.
So yeah, let's see. Should we move on to the next?
And I think actually we're at scenarios.
Yeah.
All right. So, Heather, I think I am just going to do these all group just so we
Okay.
don't
Yeah.
run into tech snags.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were having technical difficulties like I mentioned. So we were going to do small groups, but we'll just do a large.
Yeah. I'm just going to do this in a large group because, for some reason, those of you who work with me in family supportive housing, I love to do these breakout groups, but for whatever reason today, Teams decided to take away my ability to do that. So, and I have no idea why. But anyway, so we're going to show you 2 or 3 scenarios here. I'm just going to kind of keep track of time. We'll do at least 2 of them. And what I'll do, I'll just put them up on the screen here in a moment and explain them. Just to kind of get your juices flowing, get you thinking about some of the stuff we presented today in this training and how you might approach different situations you might run into. And I think once I put up the first scenario here, I'll give you, I don't know, a little under a minute to just kind of read it, take it in, jot down thoughts you have. And then on each of them, we'll just try to hear from maybe at least 2 or 3 people what came up for you. Okay. So our first scenario, I think my voice just cracked there. This cold is making me feel like I'm 13 again. Our first scenario is one around getting started with savings. So John started a new job that enables him to transition off benefits. In a recent meeting, he says, for the first time in a long time, I feel like I have enough money to put a little away, but I don't know how to get started. What would you say to John? How could you help support him in saving? I'll keep that up there. Give you a little time to consider that, jot down thoughts. I intentionally didn't put a lot of details in here, so you can cook up details if you like about his income, etc. Heather, are you able to see if people look kind of like they're done thinking about it? Because I can't see anyone.
I can see only a few people. They look very deep in thought.
Oh, good. Okay. All right. We'll give it a few more moments, and then we'll see what people have to say about this one. All right. So what are your thoughts? Again, we'll try to hear from 2 or 3 people. What would you be thinking about in this scenario? How would you assist John? What kinds of conversations would you have? What resources might you direct him to?
So we have a couple
Okay.
folks. So Jennifer Dennis said in the chat, for scenario 1, I would ask the income. If it's low, I would suggest the FSS program.
Okay.
If not, I would suggest the Financial Futures program for saving.
Great. And I think we have a little plug for Financial Futures at the end, right, Heather?
Yes, we do.
Nice. And so those of you who aren't familiar, but I think probably a lot of you are, that's the Financial Capability Program at CVOEO in Northwest Vermont. Yep. Great, thanks.
And then Megan says, you would ask are you saving for anything in particular?
Great. Yeah. What are those specific goals? Right. Why does John want to have money set aside? How can you use that to help him set his goals? Yeah. Great. Other thoughts?
And Cindy, did you want to add something?
Well, coming from the FSH perspective, obviously getting into our FSA is the
There
easy
you
way
go.
to start.
There you go.
But I'd probably also have a further conversation around any previous banking experience and what that looked like.
Yep.
Yep. And what might be convenient for him if his employer has direct deposit and so on and so forth.
Great. Yeah, thanks, Cindy. Love that. Right. Explore what's the banking history. Are there any barriers to banking that might prevent him from saving initially? Yep.
Yeah, and that actually brings up something Forrest and I had talked about, but I didn't end up getting it into the slideshow, is the check systems reports.
Yep.
So if they do have barriers to accessing bank accounts, you can get that information through a check systems report.
Yeah. Yeah, and yeah, we can send out a link about that.
Yeah, we'll add that into the follow-up.
Okay. Any other quick thoughts about scenario 1?
Looks like we have a couple more in the chat. Michelle says, I would also ask how much he is willing to put away and how often, once a week or a month, etc.
Yep. Great.
And Jennifer adds, I'd also ask him how that feels and is it a little intimidating?
Great. Love that. Yeah, exactly. Good. Digging into what does this bring up for you? Because, obviously Heather and I are putting a very positive frame on saving in this presentation, but it absolutely can bring up fear for folks. They may have had experiences in the past where they saved money and lost it, right? And so, yeah, I think that's excellent. Really, digging into that part. Thank you.
And then Amy adds, encouraging him to direct deposit to a set small amount that he won't miss into a savings account.
Great.
You don't see, you don't spend. And that automatic piece is really great.
That is huge. All right. I don't know. We might get all the scenarios. Let's see here. Doing pretty well time-wise. So I'm going to move us on to our second scenario. So this one, kind of has a theme of emergency savings, which I don't know if we really specifically called out actually in our presentation, but I think you all get the idea. Rainy day fund, right? So Monica, a single mother with a CARES voucher, is just barely getting by. She wants to get an emergency savings started, but she tells you there are just too many things to pay for right now. Monica did not file taxes this year and hasn't been receiving the advanced child tax credit. You bring up the idea of applying for the credit through the IRS portal, but Monica's concerned that the income would reduce her benefits. So what do you do? What's the conversation with Monica? Kinds of things you explore. Give folks a few moments to consider that one. Yeah, you can tell me, Heather, I guess if you start seeing things show up in the chat, that's one cue that people are done with the deep thought. It's my favorite thing to do. I love putting the awkward pause in and just sitting with the silence in these things.
It's essential, really.
Yeah. I don't know. That feels like some good thinking time. What do folks think about that? What would you bring up with Monica?
Lucy, your hand is up, but I think it might be up from earlier. Or do you have something new to add? No. Okay, took it down. Okay, Cindy?
I would probably go to the website with her and review the policies around the advanced child tax credit and potentially speak with her, depending on what her benefits are. I'm kind of thinking it's reach up. Having the conversation with her case manager as well, so that she's fully informed.
Great. Thank you, Cindy. Yep. Seeking the information together. Yep.
Yeah, and there are links, like we said, on that page for the child tax credit. There are links to get more information there.
Yep.
into
Yeah.
the quotas.
Other thoughts about this one?
So we have one in the chat. So Rob says, I would also ask Monica if it would be worth reviewing her budget to try and see if we can find some things to adjust.
Great. Yep. So that budgeting tracking conversation. Yep.
Yeah.
And what about her? Does she have to be worried that the advanced child tax credit is going to reduce her benefits? Is that a thing? This is kind of a pop quiz.
I didn't think so. So this kind of threw me for a loop.
You may have guessed the answer is no. The advanced child tax credit is not considered countable income for the benefits programs that folks are receiving. We'd be working with. So they reach up, 3 squares, housing vouchers, right? All of that. All right. Any other thoughts about this one? You seen anything else in the chat, Heather? I don't. Oh yeah, there you are.
Well, I was thinking, in addition to the child tax credit, depending on if she's working, maybe the earned income tax credit, and asking her also, like if she received those economic impact payments that were released last year. So
yeah, great. Yeah, right. Thank you. Right, because people can still apply. Yep. Yeah. Now, if you missed that. Yep. Great. All right. And that's a good reminder with the emergency savings too, like those kind of windfalls, right? Like the tax credits Heather mentioned, like a tax refund if somebody is getting enough income to get that. Those can be great opportunities to get a rainy day fund like this started. All right, I'm gonna go to the last. All right, sound like a surfer or something. Okay, here we go. Okay, here's our last one. This gets more to long-term goals. So Desiree and Ethan, young parents of 3 small children, are housed with a Section 8 voucher. They don't like renting and are eager to buy a mobile home as soon as possible. When you ask how much money they've saved now, Desiree replies, we don't have any. You have a good discussion about the need for down payment and some savings on hand for home repairs. You do a draft budget together based on what they know today about their expenses, and there's no money left over. When you ask them what their plan is to set aside the money they'll need, Ethan says, we're just going to have to make it happen. What do you do? So what kinds of things does this bring up? This is this is kind of a classic. I had financial coaching where I had somebody who was very eager to do something. And when I asked, how are we going to do it? I'm just going to do it. Consider that one. All right. You seeing stuff in the chat, Heather?
yes. So Michelle mentioned that this is a great example for the family self-sufficiency program.
Hey, there you go. Yep,
if they're getting, they are getting a Section 8.
Yep.
Sorry.
Yep.
Yeah. Great.
And that homeownership, Section 8 homeownership program that Cindy mentioned too, right? Might be a route towards this, and those programs work together. Yep. And what else?
Also the Vermont Match Savings Program.
Yep. Great.
Sorry, I don't mean to jump in. I'll let other people go.
Yep.
So Rob had wanted to add?
Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously the goal is to buy a home, which means they wouldn't be on Section 8 anyway. So another thing I would discuss with them is how to increase their income so that they'll be able to save some money. Even though they are in Section 8 and it can be kind of a little bit, like, geez, if I make too much, maybe I don't qualify. We can try to look at the balance with that and see how much they can increase their income by to put that extra money away.
Yep.
And again, I think Michelle's answer is really spot on as well.
Yeah, right. That family self-sufficiency program, how can they increase income within that program? Yep, because that can get them a great nest egg. Yep. What about that piece of Maybe I didn't make it clear enough in the scenario, but when you say to someone, how are you going to do it? And they say, I'm just going to do it. just going to do it. No problem. Going to start tomorrow. Going to do it. I mean, I think we often face situations where people maybe it's more common to face situations where people are overwhelmed and don't know how to get started. But I did occasionally run into this where it's just like, nope, we're going to do it. But didn't get a lot of detail about how. How would you handle that?
Cindy just wrote the Section 8 can transition to mortgage through the home ownership program.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's awesome. Did you want
Because
to
there's, oh, yep, go ahead. Did you have another one, Heather?
Oh, it looked like, Cindy, you have your hand up. Did you want to add more to that?
I was just in response to the, we're just going to have to make it happen.
Yeah.
I think it's really important to grab onto that positivity.
Oh, sure.
With them.
Sure.
Yeah.
And it's depending on the relationship with the client. It's like, okay, so what's that first step? What can we, you know, the language you use is dependent upon the client, obviously, but in the relationship, but
yeah.
I've made those statements to myself before about things. So it's like, yeah. But,
no, right. So yeah, maybe some visualization, right? Yeah. What does that first step look like? What does it look like when you're in your home? Describe to me the process of how you get there, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And in that, finding the opportunities to kind of help them break it down into steps, right?
Yeah.
And then Michelle adds, I would offer to sit down with the participant and list the steps on how to make it happen.
Yeah, great. Yep. I'm here as a sounding board. Let's talk about how this looks. Yep.
Yeah. And I would add the SMART goals, like keeping that framework in mind when you're listing those steps and like really creating that framework around the goal.
Yep. Yeah, this one has SMART goals written all over it, doesn't it? Lots to consider and you know, going to home ownership and things with that.
And then Michelle added, make a mini goal. So
taking
those steps at a time. Yeah.
Great. Right. That's our scenarios. If any other burning thoughts people want to get out there?
Any tips based on the work that you've done with people?
And
experiences you've had and other things that are similar to this?
Okay. But love everything we heard there, and just reiterate that this is a really good family self-sufficiency example here. So, yep.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I think we are pretty much at the finish line here, right, Heather?
Yeah, and you know, I know that we're familiar. Forrest and I are familiar with these resources. I'm sure there's other. I know that other TAP agencies have their own programs around the state. One of the nice things about these is that they can be remote, or they are remote rather. They've really transitioned. The Growing Money classes and financial coaching are all done online, and right now the classes aren't available, but they are working on a self-paced program. It will be available early next year. And then RentRight, all of their classes. The tenant, I think it's the Finding Housing and Getting, I can't remember now which one. One of them is self-paced, and then two of them are like remote through Zoom. I don't remember which is which, but you can get all the information through those links too.
And I thought I'd throw in here too, Heather, if you're in Capstone Community Action Service area, so was that Lamoille, Washington, Orange County, I think. They also have a really well-developed financial capability program. So they're another great resource too.
Does anybody have any other ones that that you want to share? I think NECA has one too, maybe, or maybe yeah. I'm not sure. I'm not up to date on all of that. So.
Okay. All right. Oops.
Does anyone
was
have
that-
any?
Whoops, I didn't mean to end the show, but I guess that was the end of the show.
I didn't put the Q&A slide
Okay.
up there.
Okay.
But does anyone have anything they want to add or any
Yeah.
questions or?
Questions as we wrap up?
Cameron?
Yeah, I actually have to get going here real quick, and I just wanted to say thank you guys. This was really helpful and informative, and I have a lot of great notes from this, so thank you.
Great, thank
Awesome.
you so much.
Yeah, and we'll get the recording out, of course, too, and slides and everything, so if folks want to review.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you all could hear me. I thought my voice would actually go below the range of human hearing, but never did. So,
You stayed in there well.
Yeah, other questions as we wrap up? Comments? Okay. All right.
Well, always feel free to
Cool.
reach out to either of us.
Yeah, sure.
And we'll send a follow-up email, and also remember that I will be sending along initially to supervisors and Forrest will to information about that SOAR training too. So just have that on your radar. You know, if you're interested, I would suggest talking to your supervisor, or if you're a supervisor, then you'll be hearing from us.
Great. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank
Heather,
you.
Joining.
Bye. Heather, do you want to
Thanks.
stay on for a couple minutes so we can
Sure.
just
Bye.
and bye, everyone. You can hit the